Before You Sleep, a journey into the genius on the left, the lunatic on the right. If one day you see me gone mad, it is, in fact, you who has lost your mind. Perhaps you have pondered this question: what kind of wall truly stands between us and the madman? Have you ever stared at the ceiling in the dead of night, suddenly doubting if the world around you is real? Have you ever watched the surging crowds and felt they were worlds away, as if you were merely an outsider to this life? If you have ever felt this way, tonight's book might leave you with chills in the cold night and a profound, lingering silence. In 2010, a book titled The Genius on the Left, the Lunatic on the Right suddenly exploded in popularity. It wasn't a dense academic thesis, nor a work of fantasy. It was a collection of interview notes with psychiatric patients. The author, Gao Ming, spent 4 years diving into mental wards and even met privately with over 200 patients and individuals with psychological disorders. He did it for one purpose: to talk. Just talk. To chat with those labeled mad by society and see the world through their eyes. What he found was spine-chilling. Some say after reading it, everyone looks like a psychiatric patient, including themselves. Others warn, never read it late at night, for you will be swept away by the flawless logic of the insane and begin to doubt the very worldview you've spent decades building. Today, let us push open that heavy iron door and step into that folded world to see the souls trapped on the other side. Perhaps after this journey, you will realize that the real wall isn't in the hospital, it's in our own minds. Let's talk about the author, Gao Ming. He wasn't a psychiatrist or a professor. He was just a regular media professional, salaryman, as we say now, pushed along by the mundane rhythms of life. But he had a flaw: excessive curiosity. In 2004, a friend who was a psychiatrist shared a case during a casual chat. Gao Ming was stunned. For the first time, he realized there was a group of people living by an entirely different logic. From then on, he became obsessed, seeking out patients whenever he had free time. Was he afraid? Yes, he wrote about it. Sometimes, during a conversation, a chill would run down his spine because he found himself unable to refute the patient's logic. Their arguments were airtight, sometimes even more rigorous than our normal, daily logic. Some called his stories fakes, but he stopped defending himself. He simply said this book wasn't a study, it was an adventure. He was like an explorer pushing open an unknown door, bringing back the sights to show you. Whether you believe it or not is up to you, but he hoped that after reading, you could empty yourself. Empty yourself. It's a fascinating phrase. It means pouring out the certainties of your normal life and using an empty cup to taste the wine brewed by the mad. Now, let us walk through that door. You might imagine a mental ward filled with screams and distorted faces. It's not like that. When Gao Ming first entered, he found people who looked no different from you or me. Some sat quietly reading, some were even polite, shaking his hand and saying, "Nice to meet you." But as the conversation deepened, you'd realize their minds existed in a completely different dimension. Let me tell you a few of the most memorable stories. The first, the end of life. The protagonist was a female patient, formerly a refined teacher with a husband and child. One day, she changed. She stopped speaking and ignored her family. All day, she wore a black raincoat and crouched in a dark corner of the yard, holding a flowery umbrella, immobile, for hours on end. Experts tried everything, but she remained unresponsive. Everyone gave up on her. Until one day, a psychologist arrived. He didn't ask questions. He simply found a matching black raincoat and a flowery umbrella, walked over, and crouched beside her. He stayed there for a week. On the 7th day, the woman finally moved. She slowly leaned toward him and whispered, "Are you a mushroom too? You might want to laugh, but don't." Behind this scene lies something deep. The woman told him why she crouched there. In her perception, stones, ants, and trees are not dead. They have life and their own flow of time. She said humans are too arrogant to think only they can think. A stone's time moves so slowly that it appears frozen to us, but in its own dimension, it is experiencing the shifting of eras. She wasn't crazy, she had switched her perspective. She abandoned human arrogance to see a stone as a stone, and an ant as an ant. Because we normal people cannot understand this perspective, we label her an outlier and lock her away. The second, the 3 little pigs. This story is even more eerie. The patient was a strong man diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. Initially, he had 3 personalities based on the fable, Piggy 1, Piggy 2, and Piggy 3. In his childhood trauma, he personified the source of his pain as the big bad wolf. To protect himself, he split into strong personalities to fight back. But in the long struggle, the 2 weaker personalities were eaten by the wolf. By the time Gao Ming met him, only Piggy 3 remained. And Piggy 3 told him, "I have swallowed the big bad wolf, too." He had finally consumed the trauma itself, but he was no longer whole. The third, on love. There was an old lady whose husband had passed away years ago, yet she still sat 2 places at the table, talked to the air, and tucked in his pillow at night. Her family called it a hallucination, but she was calm. "He is here. I can see him and feel him." Forcing me to say he's dead, that would be lying to me. Gao Ming recorded these stories without judgment or sentimentality. But as you read, tears might fall. What is the difference between the obsessions of the mad and our own? They simply went to the extreme, while we still linger in the middle ground. Now, we come to the most chilling story, the true world. The protagonist was a woman who could mimic, not just acting, but truly becoming another person. She'd observe a neighbor for months, and then one day, she'd look in the mirror and see not herself, but that neighbor, every wrinkle of fatigue, every thought. She told Gao Ming, "We are all trapped in our own eyes, guessing at others. But have you ever thought about what it's like to truly see through their eyes?" She went further. She tried to see through the eyes of a dog, a bird, a stone. Gao Ming asked the ultimate question, "Did you see the true world?" She smiled, a smile that felt haunting in the dim room. "To see the real world," she said, "you must see the sky through the eyes of the sky, the wind through the eyes of the wind, the sea through the eyes of the sea, and a human through the eyes of a human. Then she said the line from the beginning, "If one day you see me gone mad, it is, in fact, you who has lost your mind." She was saying, "You think I'm crazy because you can only stand in your own position. If you could step out of your shell and see through infinite eyes, you'd realize the mad one is actually you and your narrow perception." At that moment, Gao Ming's hand was trembling. He felt that this woman, locked in a ward, was the one truly awake, while the people outside, working, scrolling through phones, gossiping, were the ones sleepwalking. The wall. The genius on the left, the lunatic on the right. Does a vast chasm truly separate the two? Gao Ming doesn't give an answer. He only shows us that these patients have one thing in common: they dove into a thought so deeply that they couldn't get out. We are normal only because we know when to stop. We know that thinking too much is useless and that following the crowd is safe. We live stable lives, but perhaps mediocre ones. The mad see a world 100 times broader, even if it is painful. Our normalcy might just be a collective hallucination, a framework agreed upon by the majority. If you stay inside, you are safe. If you jump out, you are dragged back, medicated, and shocked. This reminds me of Copernicus, who said the Earth wasn't the center of the universe. Everyone thought he was mad. Or Bruno, burned at the stake for saying the universe was infinite. In the eyes of the majority, they were lunatics. Today, we call them geniuses. Thinking isn't a disease. Thinking too deeply isn't a disease either. The disease is when you dive in and can't come out, and no one outside is willing to go in and find you. Those we call mad are just lost. They traveled too far. And we, standing in our safe zones, lack the patience to reach in and pull them back. We use ridicule, rejection, and iron doors to draw a line, telling ourselves, "I am not like them." But in the dead of night, ask yourself, are you really different? Have you ever felt that life is meaningless? That everyone is just acting? That you want to leave it all behind and hide in the mountains? You have, you just didn't let the thought grow. You strangled it in its cradle. If mad, let it grow. They live in that other world for you. As the book ends, Gao Ming offers no grand conclusion. He simply closes his notebook and walks back into the bustling world. But you know something has changed. From now on, when you see a man talking to himself on the street, you won't look away so quickly. You'll wonder, what world is he seeing? Who lives in his mind? The book isn't meant to make you admire mental illness. It's a reminder that the world is vast enough for countless ways of living. It's a warning, don't trust your eyes too much, and don't blindly believe the truths told by the majority. I'll end with a question a patient once asked Gao Ming. If there were only demons in this world, then there would be no demons. Just as if there were only gods, there would be no gods. Tell me, do we exist because of the opposition, or does the opposition exist because of us? Good night. May you see a different moon tonight.